So hello everybody, this is Desteni Movie Night, and the movie is called Adjustment Bureau, and we have two guests here from Vienna, Michel and Aldin.
Hello.
And it's an interesting movie because it's about a couple in a way. Basically, it starts with a politician guy who is like really ambitious and wants to walk the path towards being a senator and then beyond, and he's facing some events within his life what is assisting him to realize that there are some secrets in this world, and then there are secret things what are directing his life, and then he has to make some choices but he just cannot accept, and he's still trying to find the answer and then trying to get what he wants. And it's not easy to explain because it's so much levels it touched me. But basically there is this secret group, they call themselves like Adjustment Bureau, and they have these cases, they adjusting lives, and then with this guy they face some difficulties because there are life paths they cannot direct, and then the movie is about this partnership basically, and how they find and lose together each other and then find again together. And I'd like you guys to just tell some first impressions if you can.
Um, well, my first impression of seeing the movie was I got a lot of points reflecting back towards the Destiny process and what I've learned so far from walking it. Of particular interest, I found the point of there being like these case managers from the adjustment bureau who really make sure that the pre-planned or pre-programmed lives remain on the pre-planned track, and people do not steer off the plan to disrupt the entire, let's call it, system that was planned. Because that point reflected of how what I learned from Destiny, how how the mind was created to key, and the mind was managed, or there were certain things going on that it was made sure that people remained on their pre-programmed paths and do not go beyond that to discover the real truth, what's going on. So that one point stuck out particularly for me, for example. Do you have anything to add?
Impression I had of the movie was how determined and persistent David, the character Matt Damon played in the movie. He, despite all these obstacles and being told, he cannot be with Elise because it wasn't in the plan, he still persisted and he still was so determined to find her. And I thought that was pretty cool, in terms of, in terms of when people, when they have a goal in life and they're very driven, they will do anything to get there. So I saw that a pretty cool point.
Yeah, another point I found interesting is like where there is kind of like a will, there is a way, where he was pre-programmed, so to speak. He had a plan written for him, but it didn't mean that he didn't have that I'll call it choice to still like steer off that path and create something completely different. So I found that part really cool, because it proved that even though if you are pre-programmed or have a pre-planned, even if he was pre-planned, he still managed to get out of it in the end. So it's not like he was completely locked or lost forever.
Yes, it's like we have to make choices, and then we realize that we can change ourselves, even when all circumstances like pushing us towards a direction, and everyone is expecting something about us. Yes, interesting. And also, I have to say that this is a live Google Hangout session, and you can ask questions, and there is this Q&A part when you can just write questions, and we might be able to answer it. We can see it directly. So anyone who's watching, just ask if you want about the movie, about the process, or us, or personal relevances. So it's yes, interesting, because also it's about this secret group who is trying to make themselves to be like these guardians, like they try to parent humanity, because apparently we cannot direct our life path. And do you think humanity can once and for all stop like this wars, abuse, and destruction? Or do we need some guardians to handle serious problems?
Yeah.
Aldi, for instance, or Michelle?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I think humans, we could manage it ourselves to stop everything. We don't need guardian angels, so to speak, because it all boils really down to the point of responsibility. Because the guardian angels would just represent like that point, which is the same we can take, which is responsibility, which means they would take the responsibility to direct the situation and resolve it and stop wars and whatever goes in that. But we can take also that same point that the guardian angel, so to speak, would represent, which is that responsibility, and just live it ourselves. And for us, take responsibility to stop these atrocities, stop anything that is not supportive of any life form.
Yeah, because guardian angels, if there were any, they could only do so much in this world, because it's us as humans creating these wars, creating the abuse. So it really does come down to us individually, one by one, stopping the abusive patterns within. And then, standing as examples and showing people what it is to live basically free of abuse, at peace with oneself.
Yeah, and even if the guardian angels would, for example, let's call it guardian angels, stop it, or someone else stop it, I mean, wouldn't we recreate the same thing? Because, like, we ourselves did not realize these things, and we did not, take the necessary measures and implement the solutions, and, realize that such things are really not necessary, and that we personally wouldn't like to be affected in our lives by them, or for our families or loved ones, and so on. So I think even if someone else would take the responsibility to stop, I mean, we would still in the end somehow recreate the same thing, maybe even worse. So I think it really, we should be the ones to take responsibilities, and I think that's the only solution, where every one of us has to have it in them to take the responsibility to commit to, stopping and finding a solution to these things.
Yes, I think also, because it doesn't make sense if there is this secret force what is keeping us in way like safe, but if you do not know that this is happening, then what is the point? Like, what would be the direction or the future if we just feel like we are driven by fate, but in fact there are some forces keeping us in a line. But without those forces, then we wouldn't feel like responsible. So it doesn't make sense. So do you think that for instance, like these governments, they keep secrets, and then they make sure that some points like remain secret? And do you think that this is a good thing, or do you think good to keep secrets, or like how you feel? Like, do you have any personal experiences about secrets on this kind of trying to protect or responsibility point?
Well, yeah, I would like to talk about an article I read today, actually, about North Korea, where an old website what used to say that the dictator never goes to the bathroom. He cannot defecate. He was born under a rainbow, and at 3 weeks old he could walk. So they created this website with saying all these things to make the dictator of North Korea look like a god, just not because you know, being human, you have to go to the bathroom, you eat, and you get sick, for example. So that's just part of like what we have to go through being human. And so if such secrets or information would be leaked to the North Korean population, because they already today they see the dictator as a god, basically. So if such information were leaked, I mean, the population would definitely see him differently than what they see him now.
Yeah, they would just like realize that he's just a normal man like them. So why they would have this such a power and abuse to going on? Yes, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Aldin?
Um, None particular like self-experience in terms of secret comes up right now, but I can mention, for example, that from my perspective, in terms of holding secrets, if it's a good point or not a good point, I think as humanity as a whole, we shouldn't have any secrets from each other under current circumstances. For example, the case with Snowden, you know, like leaking America spying and stuff like that going on in Great Britain and so on. I think holding secrets from each other is in the end will be known, will be revealed, and the damage is much higher, and the consequences much more intense and encompassing. So from my perspective, holding secrets from each other is not a good idea. However, I also see the point or the dimension of self-honesty in it, where we cannot just speak our entire mind, for example, to one another, because that will obviously have like tremendous consequences.
Yes.
So yeah, there's really this element of like self-honestly having to assess what is okay to communicate to another. But in terms of secrets, holding secrets, and that we should not hold secrets from each other, I mean more like secrets that are really like at the core really destructive to the rest, to one another, you know. I mean, such things shouldn't even exist. So if that makes sense.
Yes, in a way also like those kind of secrets I also don't agree with when people like create artificial power over others with secret knowledge or secret technology, and they hold on to it and protect it in all costs, like these corporations do in the name of profit. It just doesn't feel right, I think, and also we shouldn't operate on this level. Yes, for instance, what do you see that what would be the points what are not revealed to the people or public, like in this world system, what would change people's mind or lives or the world system? Like there is more what we see in this world, like behind the scenes, what we are not aware of, like directive power.
I would definitely say so. Just even like taking an I think it's called analogy of the point of like, for example, how, you know, like our existence is made out of like matter of atoms that are not directly visible to our eyes, but they are there and they are operating as like these principles and like these behind the scene things, so to speak, to make this reality like work. And from the same principle, from my perspective, there are also these groups or powers or positions by certain people in this world that direct in the bigger picture in a certain way, are like the people who, you know, put us we are like the puppets on the string, and they're like directing us, so to speak.
Yeah, because basically the case managers, they were the ones in control of reality. They knew more of reality than the humans. So in terms of the world as it is today, we do have like the elite, and there's more. There's like recently there's like just more awareness about what is going behind the scenes, because I know that there was a YouTube video on Ebola and how, you know, this whole Ebola thing is really a way for the government to influence people to panic and go into fear and it's all for profit and for the pharmaceutical industry, and so there are conspiracies around it. But I think because of these, the information being spread around, being more people are being more aware that there is probably more than what we see right now.
Yeah, I agree, and our education system is very, very limited. I mean, around the entire world, not just in a particular country. And we by far do not learn everything about the world. It's like such a small portion, and just by that fact, I mean, there are things that we are certainly not aware of.
Yes, I agree. Just starting by how our own mind or personalities are operating and how we interact with our own selves or like with each other in the mind and the body level, or like how the thoughts are coming or where are going. So these things should not be like secret, because in a way I see that these movies can be also like an analogy or like symbolism for our own minds, like this burrow what is like hidden and secret. We could even see that this is our own minds what is just like directing our lives without we do not even realizing how actually. And then this could mean also like unrevealing these secrets within ourselves. Like for instance, with this Desteni I Process course, like it's much more beyond like basic education, because we are learning how we are actually operating, and then by understanding we can change ourselves, reflecting on each other and everything. And
Yeah, I agree. Especially when if one were to take the when one would walk the mind constructs, because that's a cool activity or process to walk, because then you get to see exactly how you created a point or a pattern, and that you are and how you're responsible for a situation or a moment. So that's cool too, because then your secrets are exposed. Because if you, for example, blame your mother for your eating disorder, you'll see that you've actually just used blame. You blamed your mother instead of realizing you're responsible for your putting the food in your body. So you can change. You don't have to just project that out to your mom, for example. So things like that, where walking the Desteni I Process course, you do reveal, there are points that you get to see of yourself, but in a way it's cool, because then you feel more empowered that you can actually change because you created the point in the first place.
Yeah, I agree. And because you mentioned like movies can be like what did you say, like showing how also like our mind and how it works. What came up was like that scene where David, the main character, went in this big building where the case managers were scanning his boss, I think it was, and he found the case managers because that black case manager, he slept in and he forgot to, like, according to plan, spill the coffee, so he didn't
yes,
get to the bureau. And the scene where he's like trying to escape from them, and where they pop up from every door is like, from one point I saw like how we try to escape from our minds. Like these case managers represent points in our minds where they pop up here and there, and no matter where we go, they're like still like the same points, or we get back to the same points, and how we try to run away from it. And as another point that I saw from the same scene was like how when we try to break free from our pre-programming or something, like a point that is not really supportive in our lives, how the mind like throws these points at us, like obstacles in our ways, and then we go the other route, and then it throws another obstacle and stuff like that.
yes, it's interesting. Also, for instance, my own life, like I had, I don't know, like 30 points, what was like pushing me towards one direction, and then one slight, I don't know, impression was like, I know that this won't be right because it will lead to the same point, and then I will just be time looping again and again. And then by writing with the course, it really assisted me just to like what these books they have, like the path they've seen. It was similar to me, like I was able to try to see how my life is going on as I am currently existing, and I am able to change my own path. because I realized that how I actually participate to the outcome or the manifestation with my own mind or with the emotions. Like also there was this specific scene in the movie, like I'm not sure that I can quote it. Maybe you can help me with when they mentioned that really be built to lead with our emotions or being to
Yes,
lead. Mhm,
I have
yes.
the quote. We are not built to lead with our emotions like you are, says the case manager, but that doesn't mean we don't have them.
Yes. So do you have a perspective on this emotion leading?
Okay, I'll go first.
Oh,
Sorry. Um,
if not, I don't know.
I mean, just from own experience, I mean, I can definitely see from my entire life, I've been led by emotions, I've been led by feelings, by thoughts, and you know, the entire mind spectrum, so to speak. Um, and that there is this element where one can really be one's own director, where even despite having like a certain emotional experience in a moment, one still has this tiny little like time slip of taking this opportunity to like just really take a physical breath and not act on that emotion, and from there take a decision based on that emotion, but really just take a breath, you know, let the emotion process, so to speak, in your body. Don't immediately act on it. Take your time, reflect a little bit, and then speak in awareness, so to speak. So that's what comes up right now in terms of the question that you asked.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
because sorry, you
no,
just
please go on.
okay. So just I wanted to say that yes, because if we would lose something with like if take a one breath and the emotion is gone, then what we would lose? Like it's gone and then we are just here. But if we take a breath, I mean, with taking a simple moment, we wouldn't lose anything. Or so it would also make sense that if we are not feeling like directing the moment on ourselves, why would just be led by these emotions, especially when we also maybe have already memory of that didn't go well, like become angry or frustration to just exert to another. It just doesn't make sense, and especially when leading like leading the country with emotions, I wouldn't suggest.
Cool, yes, definitely.
Yeah, and in terms of emotions and it being like being human, people have this saying, oh, that's what being human is about, to feel and to experience happy feelings and stuff like that. Um, but we don't really understand where they come from and also the consequences of acting on such emotions or feelings. And I do know that in terms of like family and stuff like that, like especially cultural wise, there are certain cultures where families would be more emotional, or they would have maybe short tempers. Or I come from an Italian family, so I'm very used to being with you know Italian kind of culture, very emotional, speak with their hands. And so, so even with growing up in such families, you're kind of led to believe this is how, you're supposed to be or live or express yourself, instead of really questioning where that's coming from, questioning your family, questioning yourself, um, questioning the consequences, basically.
Right, because that saying, like, you know, like you do this and you say it's like it's part of being human. I mean, it doesn't have to be. Let's redefine what is being human, you know, to a more supportive context.
Yeah, definitely makes sense because it's not about just ourselves and then the right to express ourselves, but also the consequences that we are causing to others. And actually, we have a comment, like a question style from Yogan. I read it. I observed the following. The movies, agents, and populace represent part of ourselves. There is a part of ourselves that keep things the same, avoiding change, agents, but we can also overcome this resistance to change, who is the actor David, Matt Damon.
Oh, that's a great perspective.
Totally agree.
Yeah, because Matt Damon in the movie, he was very persistent, and so that's who we have to be essentially when we walk our process from the mind to physical awareness. Is we have to keep pushing through that resistance. So that's cool that Yogan brought that up.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, I can see it as well, where you mentioned there's a part of ourselves that keeps things the same, avoiding change, which is represented by the agents. It's a really good one. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, it's like our natural programming. Pre-programming is not changing, so it's new for us to change.
Yeah. So with every point, we kind of like want to change. We're hit by this like part or parts of ourselves that at the same time like hold on or cling on to the old one and do not want to change. Can be many reasons, like fear of the unknown or fear of just having to give something up to be able to change and stuff like that. So there is that dimension of, wanting a change, but at the same time not wanting to pay the price for it, so to speak. Where it's then not done. One holds oneself back.
Yeah, also I see that this is so cool, and also like manifesting also within our lives and also with the system, like the government is trying to keep in balance all the population also can be reflected to that, or also within when we have a partnership like with my partner and we have something in balance and one is like changing and then the other is like balancing out. It's really a fascinating thing, and it is so cool to be aware of these points and then just like just have this path, what we can see that what would be the consequence if I would walk this way, or if I would be the if I could be the directive principle, not some secret things what would direct our lives, because change can be yes frightening and then fear of losing, but in fact it can be always better. So thanks, Jogan. It's a cool point. So as we just touched this partnership relationship point, like this is what hit me in the movie, like when the case manager explained to David that if he could be with his partner, Alice, I think, then he would not have this void within himself, what would be like filled. So he wouldn't want to be politician and president or this career to be pushed. So in the system perspective, like the secret group's decision of his fate, it was not supporting, thus it was suggested to give up. And then they introduced him into this decision, but he couldn't agree. So it was the basic conflict in the movie. And how you see this? How do we feel voids within ourselves, and how can we stop this feel of void within partnership or with other things?
Should I go?
Yeah.
Okay, I know one point that we tend to fill our void is through relationships, similar to what David experienced, where when he met Elise, it was like his void, was closed up. He was complete. He felt great. And so I see that even within my past and personal experience, where I also thought that having a boyfriend, okay, my life's complete, I feel so much better now, stuff like that. So yeah, we can definitely fill voids with relationships. However, the thing is that's only so temporary, is like these feelings that we get or we generate when we're in relationships, because maybe after 3 months being with the person, those feelings go away and we see the reality of the person, who they are, and then the reality of us comes through. And so then we question if the person's not good or the right one anymore, and so maybe we should break up. And so we just kind of walk our lives, not everyone of course, but going with their feelings and how we feel about someone. But these feelings are only temporary because they do go away eventually. So that's one point. I don't know if you have.
I agree with what you said, and terms of just getting back to the movie, where that one case manager, I'm not sure if it was Thompson or if it was the black guy, I don't recall his name really, said like he's not supposed, like meeting or being with Elise would, um, he would not get to the point of skyrocketing his career and being an influence, so to speak, in the world. How I also saw it is or in that Elise is filling the void that he's yearning and trying to fulfill through attempting to become president or reach a certain status in the system. How I also saw it is like that with Elise, the void filling point I interpreted also as like, being with Elise or in a relationship, you can also see points of potential in that other person that you admire that you yet lack within yourself in terms of not giving it to yourself or not having it realized as, being a potential part within yourself that is able to be cultivated and lived and granted or gifted to yourself. So I saw also that dynamic of being in a relationship, him being with Elise, for example, where he saw potentials of himself in her, and that filled his void because he recognized parts of what he can become and integrate in and as himself. So he essentially filled his own void, so to speak, or one fills one's own void through living and finding ways to live what you admire in another.
Becoming or living words.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Yes. Also, it was like specific when the case manager, I don't know, Thompson, maybe Anthony Hopkins, when he explained that she would become one of the most famous dancers, or with him she would be just like a dance teacher in the school, and it was like a weird comparison for me because for me it didn't make sense because what would be more important than express yourself and then leave your words who you are. So it was an interesting point.
Right, I agree. And also, like, just to add on the point of where he said, she wouldn't get very, very far in her life if she were to be with David. I saw that part as like a limited view of relationships, where it's like conservative and it's like limiting, and people have to give this up and that up, and like cannot reach career points and stuff like that. Whereas in relationships, or how like in Destiny, there are like agreements that are being worked with partners or potential partners, where in these agreements it's more like a focus on assisting and supporting the other to do reach the utmost potential. I mean, of course, in relationships and being in an agreement, you have to give up some things which only like are really self-interest and which would not really make the agreement possible. But for most part, it's really about supporting each other to do reach like the highest plateau or potential of yourself, so to speak, in your living, in your life, in your, let's say, career and so on. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes, basically also I have to say that there is a Desteni I Process course specifically about these agreements. Like one can learn how to know oneself and then establish self-agreement and then expand it with partner to basically establishing this, not becoming like filling the void type of relationship, but also self-support with instability and not becoming this energetic strive about each other and then always becoming more dependent, but more stable with supporting each other. And I myself walked this course, and I just cannot explain how much can be assisting if one is taking the time and the decision to walk through. Because as I myself experienced, this is always about self. That what is the friction and conflict I accept myself within, and then express and manifest with partners, like my decision to walk with my partner, and then what is the reason that I cannot come along with my partner, and this self-honesty point can really support like seeing through that as this notebook, I always bring up like I can see what is the direction we take, and then we can together communicate and decide what we want to walk with. And as yourself also, you walk this agreement. You can share about this point, maybe, if you are comfortable with.
Yeah, you also walked the agreement course. And
I walked up to a certain lesson of it.
Or just yourself, you being together, and how you can see the points, because sometimes it can be like tense, I'm sure, but there is a solution.
Yeah, actually, just when you were talking, Alden quickly asked me if I was okay because I guess he saw my expression. I get because I frowned, and because he brought that to my attention, I realized that I was in my mind thinking about something. So it's little things like these that go on in agreements where, you know, we make the agreement that if we notice something about the other person, like a slight change like that, we will ask, hey, what's going on? You know, everything okay? So little things like that, we then check in with ourselves. So it is cool in a way to have that cross reference.
Yes, and also as we talked like before the hangout a little bit about where we talked about the point of like being in an agreement or relationship, you really do face like other points where you would not face them in other areas of your life. They are really in your face, and like kind of like there is no escape from it. Like you can try, but like you know the point will always be here, presented by your partner, and like you know your reaction coming back, so to speak. So it's kind of like I'd say like a more of an enforcement towards yourself to do have to face these points, and yeah, and um, and it's definitely very supportive once you like once you do face these points and do not try to or stop trying to run away from them, because a lot of points open up from there where you can expand in you know in who you are in your relationship together and so on.
Yeah, it's so cool. And then also with communication, the one self can agree with another self, like what is the pace or the direction we can be stable and supportive. So it is really cool. And as we are heading with our time frame, one more question I had, like yes, when you have this life path, like you are living your life, and then you had this insight or realization or self-discovery, and then you change, and then you are being reflected with your family or partnership. You had like this when you suddenly changed, and then your reality is like trying to normalize yourself back. You mean what I would like to ask?
Yeah, just like with David,
Yes.
the case managers, they were trying to control him to walk a certain path. In my case, I come from a religious family, and so when I was a teenager, I started to question religion, and this brought conflict because I didn't want to go to church on Sundays anymore. So I dove into spirituality. I started to question God and just reality in general. Came to my own conclusion: God doesn't exist. It must just be us humans responsible for what's going on in this world. And then I found Desteni. And so yeah, it can be difficult when you face family and friends after you change because of your own self-discovery or own self-realizations, research that you know you've done. But I mean, if you stand within it, you know that I suppose is what matters, is who you are within your decisions or where you stand.
I agree with that. Just looking at what could I add.
Oh well, you talked. Remember Bruce Lee? Talked about that. I know it's not your personal experience.
Well, yeah, it's not a personal experience, but you know, it just fits in maybe the topic of life path and steering off it and going against family traditions and stuff like that. Like back in my past, I was pretty much into Bruce Lee and in his life and stuff like that. And you know, one part that I really liked about him is like he steered off the traditional Chinese way of just teaching Chinese like martial arts to his own culture, his own people, but also expanding it to Westerners and black people, and you know, incorporating the whole family as humanity as a whole. And initially he faced a lot of challenges and stuff like that, but eventually he created something really like a more of a unified, let's say, like martial arts family, so to speak, where it's not just strictly like martial arts is kept as a secret for like Chinese people or stuff like that, but it's expanded. Cannot really come up with a point from a personal experience other than like the same religious point, where I also come from a religious background, and just working the process, I stopped just believing in God for realizations that I had and what I went through and information I gathered from reading and from the world and experiences, and that brought a lot of friction in my family. But I mean, I stood my ground in terms of it's my realization, and this is the principle I live for. And eventually, I was just rock solid in my decision of steering off, and just continued like that, and my family became accepting of that. So one can also like influence family in a more positive way, where they would first react in a lot of like anger and fear and all these different emotions towards, like, just for example, just simple thing of steering off the religious path or tradition, and then them throughout time realizing things, and hey, nothing happened, and stuff like that. I mean, consider this, consider that, and then it become more expansive in their mind, more open-minded as well, which could lead to other potential openings of of self-improvement or realizations and so on.
Yes, a good point. Also myself, when I stopped like being actively directly active with Buddhism, and then just people ask me that what happened, like I'm not doing it, I'm not participating anymore. And then I told them that it was a tool, I used it, but I see its limits, I do not need, I am still myself. And then some people did not see that, so I was like, all right. And then after time, so to speak, it's proven that I am still myself. I am still here. I am still walking the path and being life, so to speak. So nothing to worry about. Just be, so to speak, an example of who I am and express that. So with the time, do you have anything to add specifically about the movie before we say goodbye?
I'm all set.
I'm basically all set as well. It was cool, as I said in the beginning, where David was able, even though he was pre-programmed, he was able to break through his programming, and in the end create a blank page where he's the director of his life, together with Elise, creating their own life of their decision or choice, so to speak.
Yeah,
and
cool.
It is definitely possible to break through one's programming, even if it feels very, very impossible. There are tools, there are ways, there are methods, and as we mentioned, it is the process we walk at Destiny. So these are my ending words.
Yes, definitely. It's a cool talk, and thank you very much for participating. And then I also like to say that next week will be the Desteni Movie Night with Victor about the movie The Island. So I am encouraging you to watch the movie and participate within the Hangout. And thank you very much for being with us here, and see you soon. Bye.
Thank you too. Bye.
Bye.